Have you ever noticed how, when you make a sound in an empty room, you subconsciously wait for the echo? We spend our entire lives reaching out, emotionally, looking for something to reflect back to us, to tell us that we are real, that we are seen. When a cat reaches out to you, when it chooses to sit quietly by your side or hold your gaze across a crowded room, it is looking for that exact same echo. We have spent decades in the modern era trying to clinically analyze why cats choose us, reducing their domestic behaviors to mere biological quirks or survival mechanisms. But if we look back into the shadows of history, we find a completely different story. The ancient Greeks, Romans, and Egyptians didn't see a cat's affection as a cold, evolutionary instinct. They saw it as a profound, divine choice. The bond you share with your cat is actually the echo of a deeply misunderstood, nearly invisible connection that ancient civilizations recognized as entirely sacred. Think about the last time you looked deeply into your cat's eyes. In his ancient treatise on Isis and Osiris, the Greek philosopher Plutarch recorded an observation that feels almost magical to us today, but was widely accepted as truth in antiquity. He believed that the eyes of a cat were physically linked to the phases of the moon. According to Plutarch, a cat's pupils would expand and brighten as the moon waxed, becoming full and luminous at the peak of the lunar cycle, and then slowly contracting into narrow slits as the moon waned into darkness. To the ancients, this wasn't just a biological reflex to light in the room. It was a sign that the cat was a living, breathing mirror of the cosmos. The Egyptians literally saw the cat as an animate image of the moon itself, possessing a nature both male and female, holding massive celestial power. When a cat allows you to look into its shifting pupils, it is offering you a silent communication, sharing a connection to these massive celestial cycles. This unwavering eye contact isn't given to just anyone, it is a mark of supreme confidence. It means you are seen not as an owner, but as a partner in the divine order of the household. It's a deliberate echoing of trust, signaling that you are worthy of witnessing the divine light they harbor. This bond, this choice they make to be with you, goes far beyond a pet waiting patiently at the door. It is a fierce, vigilant guardianship, even in the face of absolute peril. The ancient Greek historian Herodotus documented a level of devotion between humans and cats in Egypt that completely superseded the value of material wealth or personal safety. He tells us that when an Egyptian house caught fire, the people wouldn't scramble to save their possessions or even try to put out the building. Instead, they would form a human perimeter around the flames, watching with desperate intensity to ensure their cats did not leap into the fire. Herodotus wrote that during these terrifying disasters, a supernatural, divine state would seize hold of the cats, driving them to leap over the humans and dive into the flames. Because of this inexplicable phenomenon, the humans stood guard. This protective relationship was deeply mutual. The cat, representing the divine essence of the goddess Bastet, was believed to guard the hearth against physical and spiritual threats. This absolute, unwavering devotion was so widely recognized that the Persian king Cambyses II famously weaponized this profound love against the Egyptians during the battle at Pelusium. He drove a pack of cats ahead of his advancing army, knowing full well that the Egyptians would rather surrender their entire city than risk harming the sacred animals they loved so deeply. That is the sheer emotional weight of the feline bond in the ancient world. When a beloved household cat passed away from natural causes, the entire family would shave their eyebrows in a profound, devastating display of public mourning. They would then carry the cat to the city of Bubastis to be carefully embalmed and laid to rest. To receive this level of mourning, the cat must have first given its absolute loyalty to those residents, choosing to protect that specific hearth above all others in the world. The Egyptians understood something we often forget. A cat's decision to stay with a family is the ultimate declaration of favor. But building this shared sanctuary requires a specific kind of harmony, and the ancients recognized this in a surprisingly intimate way regarding hygiene and social respect. Before cats became the beloved companions of the Mediterranean, the Greeks originally relied heavily on weasels or polecats for domestic pest control. Historical texts reveal that these early household predators were absolute troublemakers. The older weasels possessed incredibly foul-smelling waste, making them deeply unpleasant to live alongside. The transition away from the weasel and toward the cat was driven by the feline's intrinsic, almost psychological need for cleanliness. The Roman author Aelian, in his expansive work on the nature of animals, emphasized that cats have an innate hatred for anything that smells foul or disorderly. Aelian writes that cats are among the cleanest of all creatures, and they demonstrate this through a highly specific, deliberate behavior. He notes that a cat will carefully dig a hole to bury its waste, covering it with earth, so that it becomes completely invisible. While modern biology might reduce this to a simple survival instinct to hide from larger predators, Feline interpreted it as a sign of the cat's high moral character and profound respect for the shared domestic space. By burying its waste, the cat ensures its favorite person is not offended by unpleasant odors, actively maintaining the orderly and reasonable atmosphere of the home. It is a deliberate gift of consideration. A cat taking such meticulous care to maintain the purity of its surroundings, signaling that it deeply values the human it lives with. In the ancient world, foulness was tied to chaotic destruction, so this feline attention to detail was a clear marker of a respectful bond. Your cat is actively working to keep chaotic forces out of your shared sanctuary. When that sanctuary is fully established, the cat offers something incredibly rare, the selective gift of lifelong friendship and vulnerable play. In the unpredictable and often brutal ancient world, the affection of a chosen cat was an earned, comforting constant. As the classical period progressed, the early Greek word for cat, aileros, literally translated to the thing with the waving tail, highlighting how closely people were observing the cat's physical expressions of mood and affection. We can actually see the depth of this intimate companionship etched into the archaeological record of Magna Graecia. Silver coins from the ancient colonies of Rhegium and Taurus, dating back to the mid-5th century BC, depict the legendary city founders Aukastos and Philanthos seated comfortably in chairs, playing with their pet cats. In these ancient scenes, the cats are shown interacting with their humans in ways that have not changed in thousands of years, swatting playfully at objects and engaging with their masters. Feline confirms that while many animals can be tamed, cats offer a unique, lifelong friendship if they are fed and treated with kindness. But this friendship is not given to everyone. A cat only engages in play when it feels entirely secure and at home. When those ancient, powerful founders were depicted with their cats on state currency, it sent a profound message of peace and stability. Play requires a deep emotional attunement. The cat's willingness to set aside its fierce hunting instincts to engage in vulnerable play with you is the ultimate sign of favor. When a cat plays with you, it is reflecting back the safety you have created in that room. It is a quiet recognition that they do not have to strictly be a predator on guard. They can simply be your companion. And that brings us to the most profound realization of all. When a cat chooses you, it takes on the role of a sacred shield against the invisible terrors of the night. In both Egyptian and later Greco-Roman traditions, the cat was heavily associated with the protection of women, children, and the most vulnerable among us. In Egypt, amulets of the goddess Bastet were worn close to the heart to bring safety and ward off evil. In the home, the cat was believed to possess senses that allowed it to see spirits and malevolent forces completely invisible to the human eye. As Greek and Roman cultures blended with these Egyptian beliefs, they syncretized their own gods with Bastet. The Greeks associated cats with Artemis, the goddess of the hunt, and the Romans linked them to Diana. In the classical myth of Typhon, when the monstrous, terrifying deity attacked Olympus, the gods fled to Egypt and disguised themselves as animals to survive. Artemis transformed herself into a cat, permanently linking the feline form with divine evasion, survival, and nocturnal hunting. For their favorites, cats were the keepers of secrets. They used preternatural senses to detect threats before they arrived. Whether that meant physical dangers like the venomous asps described by the historian Diodorus Siculus, or the lingering spiritual anxieties of the dark. Think about what it means when your cat chooses to sleep at the foot of your bed or guards the doorway to your room. It is not just finding a comfortable place to rest. It is performing an ancient ritual of protection. It is a deeply validating realization. When a cat stands guard over your sleep, it means you are someone worthy of the protection of a creature living seamlessly between the world of men and the gods. Just because these ancient beliefs are invisible to us now does not mean the bond isn't intensely real. Every time a cat chooses to sit by your side, it is echoing a thousand-soul-fire-souled promise of divine favor. There is a certain type of person who ends up watching a video like this, someone who looks at their cat sleeping on the couch and feels a quiet recognition that there is something much deeper going on between you two. If you felt something shift while listening to this, if it put words to a bond you've been carrying around and cherishing for a long time, it would mean a lot to me if you subscribed. I make these deep dives regularly, exploring the emotional and historical currents beneath our everyday lives, and there is a lot more to explore together.